And there we are. We are live. Welcome to Big D After Dark. I'm your host, Nathan Hill, at Nathan J. Hill on Twitter. And there in the middle is Ben Lion at Bird Turgler. And there at the end is Jose Carmona at El Chico Carmona. And we are in Pandemic Central. We are imbibing some cold beverages of choice, whatever that might be for you this evening. And we hope a few more of you viewers join us as we get going. Thanks for being with us. So again, it's Ben was just saying as we got started here, it's kind of preseason all over again. This is an unprecedented and strange time dealing with this pandemic. We hope you're safe and sound. So we're just gonna have some fun. We're gonna talk at least one rumor. We should throw in an extra rumor. We should throw in the extra rumor about who Luchi Gonzalez wants. uh, Ben, you remember that? I think you played it. We can talk a little bit about that. You can drag that up. And then,
Sure.
but let's start off with something fun. I'm gonna add. I'm gonna go to like the Brady Bunch style. Let me see if I can do it like this. Um, Brady Bunch style screen here, and um, yep. Talk about this U.S. Open Cup did a replay the other night. You know, they're doing everything they can to keep us interested and engaged. And back in 2016 was, of course, an incredible night when FC Dallas beat New England Revolution at home in front of a nice crowd there in Frisco to claim and bring home their first ever, well, not first ever, I'm sorry, but most recent U.S. Open Cup trophy, the Lamar Hunt Trophy. And look at that squad there. Yep. I'm gonna zoom in there so we can, of course, sightsee there at the end. Kellen Acosta. Oh, that was a different time, y'all. Different time. Of course, Barrios and Grazo now plying his trade elsewhere. Mauro Rosales. Forget that he had a little stint there with Dallas. Of course, Diaz, Maxi Urruti. Hedges looks like he's ready to fight. He's ready just to fight somebody. Walker Zimmerman now in Nashville. His third stop. Of course, Hollingshead and Figueroa, Minor Figueroa there. So some faces we remember well, some that have moved on to other things. Incredible night. It's just I'm going to show a couple of highlights here from their feed. They did a great job. Of course, the game got started with a pretty early on a little.
Two teams who try and stick to their principles. They both strive to play progressive football on the ground. That's a great from
Agudelo goal, and then followed up pretty quickly by one of the classics of our buddy Maxi Urruti. Ben, I'm pretty sure you looked at this goal in the highlights, and this is why we just loved Mauro, and we love Maxi when he could do this stuff, right?
Oh yeah, I mean the stylish Maxi Urruti goal when it worked was always fun. I think most of us really liked him because of his energy, and wished that the goals came with that
Yeah.
as consistently. But yeah, I mean, like occasionally you'd have like a pretty goal like that, or in the case of this particular match, too.
Yeah. Well, I lost my the correct.
Yeah,
There we go.
and Mac, that's when they were playing him in the right position. You know, people forget that his last year in Dallas, he was played out of position. You know, he was played like a what was it, as a false nine or something like that, some made up position. So I mean, in theory, it should have worked, but it never actually did. You know, it just the U.S. Open Cup victory just reminds us of when he was on top of his game, playing the right position and had somebody that could feed him the ball, as opposed to him having to be more of a playmaker in this last season.
Yeah, that end of the season experiment with him as a false 10 or a 9.5 or a 3 to the third power, or however you want to couch the way he played. Like basically like with half-ass withdrawn forward, a half-ass playmaker position. Yeah, it wasn't really his thing. And I mean, I understand why they did it, because, minus Mauro helped you get in like another attacker on the field.
That's like something I do like in FIFA, and in simulations it works, but in real life, that's something.
I mean, he wasn't terrible at it, except for like a couple of times where like there would be, I can think of one particular stretch at DC where I want to say it was Lamar was just like, just streaking wide open, and he just didn't even look at him. I mean, there was like nobody within 30 yards of Lamar. It was comically bad. And I mean, Poppy did great with what he had consistently. I mean, can we not just take a moment to marvel at how great his run at FC Dallas was with what he had to work with? I mean, the young players were talented, but like he wasn't exactly showered with riches when he was managing the team.
Managing the personnel that he had and getting them set of them. I mean, everyone remembers the U.S. Open Cup victory, but we were in 3 competitions at the same time. You had the Major League Soccer regular season, you had the U.S. Open Cup run, and then at the same time you had the CCL group play was going on, and he had to manage that, all 3 of those competitions, and rotating all those players. I mean, that was a sensational season when you take all that into account, considering they also won the Shield, while winning the U.S. and winning their CCL group. I mean, that team, I mean, he had that team, and it wasn't like they were sexy or anything. They were just scrappy, and they just found ways to win.
Yeah.
It was a very enjoyable season for me. I mean,
mind you, they when they got going, when they got on their work on running all cylinders, they were amazing, to watch. So I'm not saying they weren't impressive at times, but I'm saying the whole season combined, there was a lot of times where they won with grit and creativity, finding out ways to pull out wins instead of what happened in U.S. Open Cup, where they were sensational.
And I flew in that night for that game, and so the last in-person game I've seen of FC Dallas, and of course you're nervous going into a game like that. Here's this team is hunting for hardware. They've been on a drought for a while, and but what I remember clearly about that night, and I don't think it was a sold out crowd, but it was a nice crowd. It was and it was a weeknight, so that's a win for FC Dallas. But I remember even after that first goal, like there just was a sense, not just from the players on the field, but also from the crowd of like this, because we've seen even in that stretch that FC Dallas was really strong that year. There were these games where they would just lose focus and things would fall apart, but there was never a sense of that. There was never a sense of panic, and they went right back down, and Maxi got that goal to level it, and then really it was over at that point because FC Dallas was the more confident team, but no disrespect to New England, who were fired up and were working hard to try to make something happen. But just FC Dallas was in the zone. I mean, that's also like what you want to see out of players. You want to see and Oscar came, and we could knock him because some games the guys wouldn't show up. Some games it just wouldn't work. They had those tough matches. But he was able to get these guys to a high level and trust them, and I think that just unleashed something, especially in that game That game was incredible. It was just an amazing night. Amazing to be there. The question will be for Pareja, is he going to be as good at Orlando? In the early returns so far? And I wonder, because Orlando, it seems like a nice place to land if you're a head coach. But they don't have these homegrowns that answer a lot of questions, even if nothing more than the bottom end of a roster. But you look at a guy like Victor Ulloa, who Pareja got some good minutes out of, and got some, Orlando doesn't have those guys.
Here's an observation on that, though, and one of the things that saddens me that, of course, we've got the pause in the season and everything, is that Florida's always been thought as a talent-rich area for any sport. And I think people see it as more as sort of a mishandling of the youth system in Orlando before Poppy showed up. So I think this year you got to give him a pass, but I know I'll be interested in watching some of those Orlando B games to see if they're able to get something going, because those Orlando B teams, they were bad in USL and they were bad. There was no organization, you just knew that when you played them that you were going to win, and you were going to win big. I mean, there was really that sense of, okay, yeah, they got young talent, but it's not cohesive talent. Whatever they're doing, it's not working. And that's the main thing I'll be looking for when the USL League One, finally gets underway, is what kind of impact Poppy's going to have on that USL, that Orlando B team. Because I expect to at least see a more organized team. Even though he's not going to be like coaching it, he's responsible for implementing, the system and how everything is going to work from top to bottom.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the one thing I'll be looking for.
Yeah.
What happens with it?
But it's worth it. I mean, it just seems like it's so weird. Time escapes me and all, but Pareja's got time. Surely they're going to give him time, but I know Orlando, they want to have some success, so that'll be kind of the pressure sitting there. We'll see what Oscar can do with it. But just going back to the Open Cup game, what could have been with Mauro Diaz? What? FC Dallas had a really special player. You watch some of those assists that he passed in. The kid, the guy was unreal. And he got a lot of flack at times from the fan base. Body language.
You trying to wind me up?
I'm trying to wind you up, man. Because, and then Seattle, the really the true nemesis of FC Dallas. That really FC Dallas outplayed them in this last playoff. The last set of playoffs, and in Seattle. Seattle had to go and tear Mauro's ACL right at the sort of a contract year, right? And so
Achilles,
sorry, thank you. And the problem is, you understand FC Dallas's perspective. You can't give a designated player contract, which is what Mauro probably wanted and probably deserved with his track record. You couldn't give him that with an Achilles injury, which who knows where he'll be, if he'll come back at 80%, at 90, at 70, you understand, but it also is like the team had a franchise player there that could have been that person to build around with the youth for years to come. So, we can always ask that wonder what if, and it's probably not fair. And maybe Mauro was ready to move on, fair. But, but what might have been? What might have been, Ben?
You know what? What's the first thing that Mauro did the year after he left Dallas is he went and he almost won a treble over in the United Emirates, I mean, I think they just missed it by one game. They won both their cups that were in, and then I believe they finished second place in the regular season. They were off. I think it came down to the final week, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, no, that's right. That's
yeah,
right.
But I mean,
those were wild games to watch, by the way. Like not big crowds and kind of like a antiseptic environment. Everybody hanging out in their robes. Just it's a different way to watch a soccer game, I think.
It was.
I mean, I'd give it a shot, sure.
My point is, he went from nearly getting the treble here and with FCD, and then the next year that he's completely healthy, he nearly gets a treble over in the Gulf League. So it's. I'm just saying, it's not a fluke or anything. He clearly. He clearly is talented, and it doesn't matter what league you put him in. He's a guy that's going to create. And you know, I think there's a lot of people that still miss him here. Really, they would say, "Hey, we could use that creativeness," but
there are some who are going to talk about body language.
Well, I would say. Well, some that'll say he just wouldn't fit Lucci's system. So you got to wonder if that's like a blessing in disguise for Lucci anyway. Imagine having a talent like Mauro and then not being able to use him properly or find a spot in your system for him to fit in. So I don't know. That's a headache he doesn't have to deal with.
Ben, I'm ready for you. What?
What? You mean you want me to say how much I miss Mauro Diaz? Yeah, of course I do. I mean, there's everything there. There's the creativity and flair he brought to the table every game, and then there's a lot of nostalgia there. I mean, those are 2014 through 2016 were some really good years. I mean, back-to-back 60-point seasons. Nobody has done that besides FC Dallas. And I mean, like he was. It's hard for me to say that he is definitely my favorite FC Dallas player of all time, but he's definitely in the pantheon. Mm-hmm. He would be on my Mount Rushmore, my personal Mount Rushmore. You know, I mean, if we're talking objectively, then it's a different conversation, but. I really enjoyed having him, being a fan of the team he played for and having him on the team for those years. It was really sad when he got hurt. I mean, like that was like the end of the run. That's when you kind of knew, things as they had started out in 2014. That was the crescendo, and after that, shortly thereafter, they had the fade in 2017, and then the bounce back in 2018 was nice, but he left, and it just it was not long after that everything changed.
Yeah.
You got the sense though that last year that everyone knew it was the end of the road, that it was popping you, rooting you. Like, everybody just had a sense that, hey, we peaked in 2016, and we're not going to reach that peak with the group that we have now. So I think it was 2018 was basically everybody kind of come to realization that changes were coming, and not just little changes, mind you. Certain key players would be leaving, Perejo would be leaving. So I don't know. It was kind of in the air. It was like, yeah. That's the one thing that I know from the very last match of the season, where Uruchi was just, you could just tell he was sad, and I believe he was crying in the side. You could just tell there was a guy who could tell that was possibly his last game in an FC Dallas jersey, and I'm just saying it. I think even if you listen to some of Pareja's interviews leading up to that, you could also kind of feel that sense that it was going to be the last year. It was like they had to win it that year, or the team was going to be broken up, and that's exactly what happened. You know.
Well,
2016 is the year that they had it all. They had a chance at all. Can I tell you guys a story about that year though? Before we carry on, I spent most of that year, mind you, on forums and whatnot with FC Dallas fans telling me shut up. I kept telling them, "Hey, this is a great team." But everybody was just like, "Shut up, man! Stop bringing it up. Shut up! You're jinxing us." I'm telling you, FCD fans are a rough lot, and I spent that whole year enjoying a great team while most teams were basically just waiting for the bottom to fall out. Most FCD fans spent that whole season waiting for that bottom to fall out, which it did if you consider that Mauro got injured, but it didn't fall out until they had already secured the U.S. Open Cup and had the Shield and what. I'm just saying. Yeah. But most of the season, people were just like, "Stop talking about how good this team is," and it just seemed weird that I don't think a lot of people enjoyed that season as much as I did until it was over and done. That's my memory.
That's fine.
The whole year, just saying, don't talk about it.
I would go back and say though, like one of the challenges in Lucci's system, so I think Mauro would fit. I think Lucci would find a way to make a guy like Mauro, because if there's one thing this possession-based system needs, is not just recycling possession back around, moving the ball from one side of the field to the other, but someone to do that pass, that incredible move, that creative action that opens up space for someone else, and Mauro could do that. So, it'd be interesting to see. It would be interesting to see. Now, Paxton, he has that possibility.
Couldn't play defense, man. He couldn't play defense, and you saw what happened with Aaron Guiz, and I think it would have been similar. Mind you, I think Mauro would have at least scored some goals and got some key passes in there to keep him in there and play longer, mind you. But I still think you got to wonder if it would have been something like the Underset deal where Underset came in and he wasn't right for the system, and it took him half a year to figure out what Lucci wanted out of him. So I'm not saying that Mauro wouldn't have played on the Lucci system. I'm just saying he would not have thrived in it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Okay. Well, fair point. Let's jump over to this. Let me switch the old to this interesting nugget, Jose. So that, and you shared this in our Slack channel, and it is a fascinating thing. It's a little bit of FC Dallas news in this most unusual time, because Arsenal and Chelsea are monitoring promising Bayern Munich defender Chris Richards. And I think you're right, Jose, that FC Dallas would get a cut of this if a transfer did happen.
I forget what the percentage was for Richards going to Bayern, but Dallas kept a percentage of his rights, and it was something significant, like 15-20%, if I remember correctly. It wasn't. It
was at least 30.
Yeah, it was significant. Where we all said, "Wow," because people were like, when they saw it. I remember recalling that the percentage was pretty high, and I was saying, "Hey, if Dallas, if Bayern turns around and sells this kid for $10 million down the future, Dallas just made like $3 million off that deal." Mm-hmm. So now, what I want to talk about that, because it's important to figure out where Chris Richards is right now. So he's made a progressive climb upwards, from the FC Dallas Academy to FC Dallas to the Bayern Munich U19, and right now he's a regular starter with the Bayern Munich 2 team in the 3 Bundesliga. He's not their best prospect at center back. Is their number 1 guy at center back, and Richards is their number 2 guy, and Mai is most likely of the 2 to go tea times with the Bayern senior team. So this raises the question of, is it good for him to even go to a Chelsea or Arsenal. They're not gonna play him if he's not ready. But at the same time, people that have been watching him play, I know I've been watching him play, is that he's not probably gonna be able to break into the Bayern senior lineup this year. So maybe a team that's willing to sign him like Chelsea or Arsenal, that's willing to sign him so they can market him on US soil, by the way, and then loan him out to a championship level team, may be the best thing for his career, really, because he's probably not ready to play, at the Bayern senior level, Chelsea or Arsenal, senior level, but he might be ready to make that step up to, a Bundesliga 2 team or a championship team. And very likely, if he goes to Chelsea or Arsenal, he's probably going to get loaned out right away. He's probably not going to get a shot at their senior team. He's definitely is ready to play at higher level than where he's playing right now. And like I said, a bidding war for Richards is great news for FCD. The more that somebody pays for his right, the more FC Dallas gets.
40%, by the way.
40%, nice.
Yes. So, yay, bidding war. By the way, I believe Barca is one of the teams that is also monitoring him. So the 3 confirmed teams are Arsenal, Chelsea, Barca, and supposedly several of the Bundesliga teams also want his services. So you're talking about a kid who everyone knows is ready to at least make a step up. He's not seen as a star, but he's seen as a kid who will be a solid get and will help you in the U.S. market, which, let's face it, a lot of teams want to market in the U.S. on U.S. soil, and you want an American to be the face of your team. So there's some teams out there that will use him more as a market employee that'll get him playing time because they want to market him to U.S. in the U.S. markets.
Sure.
Let's face it, this is a kid who's going to be a U23 and probably, is on his way to be a USMNT member at some point. So you can see where that is, where the potential is.
Mm-hmm. I think he would have gotten his first cap if they hadn't coronavirus the international break.
Yeah. Yeah.
Possible.
What is that? 40%? Do you think it would hurt the value? I mean, from Bayern's perspective, then if it's a 40%, then they may be a little reluctant. They may be willing to hold on to him for a bit to see how he develops.
Well, in Bayern's case, it encourages them to hold out for more. Mm-hmm. But I mean, let's face it. 10 million, 50 million, that's nothing to the teams that we're talking about. Chelsea and Arsenal, I mean, they're not going to think twice. That's chump change to those guys, If they can get an American player that could potentially get minutes with their senior team, even if it's just during American tours, I mean, that's just advertising money, It's not going to think twice about spending that kind of money for them. I'm not saying it's going to happen. Bayern could decide that he's worth more to them when they come to the U.S. to play, on tour than he is. And he is starting for their like I said, for Bayern Munich too. So it's intriguing. It's just intriguing.
It's intriguing stuff, and it's good news for FC Dallas. It's it's good to be thoughtful, and they may not have gotten so much for him on the initial sale, but to work in a deal like that meant that Bayern, I think, was the Bayern recognized they're taking a risk on a guy who has potential, but could not work out. Who knows? And so it's a fascinating thing. But it sounds like FC Dallas did the right thing. You ultimately wonder about some other kids making the move like that too, and how this kind of throws a sort of some water on the coals, as they say.
So here's the thing. I've actually been reading some of the articles out of Germany and whatnot. And I guess what they're talking about is the reason he's getting all this attention all of a sudden is everybody has seen the jump that the kid from Vancouver that Bayern signed. I'm drawing a blank all of a sudden.
Alfonso Davies.
Alfonso Davis. He was playing with Bayern Munich too at the beginning of the year. He was practicing with a senior team and getting some minor minutes, but now he's a starter for them, and everybody's seeing, wow, that kid made the jump from which, by the way, you don't see very much in Bayern. Someone make the jump from Bayern to the senior team, and then have an impact. So everyone's seen what Bayern did with him, and they say, whoa, they got this kid Richards who's on the same trajectory. Mind you, he's not probably going to be like Davis, all right? But at the same time, I'm just saying that's helping him. People are seeing with Davis and going, well, this Richard kid appears to be on the same trajectory. And I think that's where some of the interest is, Ryan. No one is saying that anyone's making an offer for him. Just people have sort of taken notice of him and are basically saying, hey, we need to track that kid. And mind you, he plays center back, but he's been playing about half his games at right back, if I remember correctly.
Which is good. And like if you're going to buy a young prospect like that, it's better to do it sooner rather than later when his price gets even more jacked up, And so
at 20, at that year where he needs to make a move to a level higher than Division III in Germany. Mm-hmm. So this is like perfect time for all this attention. Mm-hmm. I'm thinking, how would it be? Everyone was talking about. We were all talking about. Hey, is Reggie moving? Is Paxton moving? Is one of these kids going to be sold to Europe by FCD? How wild would it be if the biggest move FC Dallas does in the next year is actually Richards going to a bigger team and Dallas ripping the rewards of that 40%?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we wouldn't have thought about it. Yeah, that's great. Well, it is fascinating. I'm still feeling for Reggie. You bring him up. This summer transfer window is going to be a lot different. Although I've taken in the past couple of days a little bit of encouragement from some of the smaller, some of the decline in some areas of deaths and things like that, and so hopefully that's some good news for the country and poses to soccer getting back in May or something like that. But yeah, I was hoping that I'm not out of the question this summer if FC Dallas sold 2 or 3 guys east, including Paxton. I know he just signed a contract. He's in a good place. But if he was hot, if he was able to keep his hot streak going, why not? Why not let these guys go and play and prove themselves if FC Dallas got a good fee out of it? So it is exciting. There's just a lot of unknowns. Ben, if FC Dallas lost one player this summer transfer window, and we're going to close with this question, that would end up being a win-win for this club. Who would you think could be gone? Reggie seems the obvious choice, but
yeah, I think Reggie is probably the obvious choice. The summer transfer market is going to be weird. I don't know how teams are going to finance transfers after basically having the last month of the season cut out from underneath them. But yeah, you look at Reggie, we probably have enough cover at our outside backs where, you could take a good fee for him and pat him on the back and tell him we'll miss him. Outside of him, I kind of think you've got in Thomas Roberts or Paxton Pomykal, like 2 players that kind of play the same position in a similar fashion, and one of them needs to be playing more or moving abroad. So those would be my 2 and 2A.
I will tell you who I think the biggest summer transfer for FC Dallas is going to be. And it's not going to be Reggie, and it's not going to be Paxton, and it's not going to be Chewy. It's going to be Cobra. I'm telling you right now. Cobra, you got Hara coming in, and you got Pepe who's growing, and you got Ferreira who's playing out of position right now. And I think Cobra's the guy that, if you look at the entire roster, is the one guy that's going to have to get moved, because if he doesn't lose minutes to Hara, now you're stuck paying Hara a lot of money to play the position that Cobra is playing. And I think Cobra is a guy who is on a hot streak, has proven to maintain that hot streak, and there's going to be teams looking for that guy that could come in and give them a fire. Maybe not a starter, but some mid-level team that's in a bigger league that's looking for that oomph to get that last Europa League spot. They're gonna want somebody like that with that kind of charisma and fiery approach that can come in and basically fire a team up and get that goal at the end of the game to win you those games. And I'm thinking Cobra is the guy. If you look at Hara coming in, unless you're gonna go to the 3-5-2 full time, once Hara comes in, which I'm not ruling that out, I think Cobra's the guy that gets moved. And I'd hate to see that. I'd love for them to keep him, obviously, and have those two guys. But I'm thinking Cobra is the one guy that gets moved. I'm not.
All right.
I'm hoping, but I'm just saying. Look at who all we have at striker, and it's going to be Hara, Ferreira, Pepe, and Cobra. And Cobra right now is your number one guy. Hara comes in to be that number one guy. You're going to have suddenly Cobra just be a reserve, and I don't see it. I think if you get a good deal, Cobra is the guy that Dallas moves.
Well, look, I'd add another name. You already mentioned him. I think it's the same, because I think with Hara coming in, there is going to be a log jam. So another possibility is that Ferreira moves, that they think about. Maybe it starts as a loan type deal. I mean, I think this summer transfer window is going to be weird, but on the other hand, I think it'll open the door to MLS, because I think there'll be teams looking for bargains, looking for players they can go get and save a little bit on a prospect here and there. So then MLS becomes maybe a little more attractive than bidding against Chelsea and other teams. So they may not land in the Premier League. They may land in other spots, but it could be an interesting scenario. But even Jesus, he's played well enough to get some national team interest and things. Maybe it's time that he would be a prospect that they would let go for a reasonable price to continue to develop. And so Andresic stays around as that backup role with Pepe on third, or fighting for that backup role as well.
But here's the thing that hurts Dallas moving any of their young talented players is the fact that with the situation all around us, the economy, not just here but everywhere, is hurting. So there's going to be some teams that are basically, like you said, they're going to be looking for that bargain. Some teams that might have been able to maybe spend an extra $1 million above, the rate to get a young, talented player, they may not be willing to do that now. They may be willing to say, hey, let's wait a year. Let's put it all on hold for a year, which is a very real possibility. Yeah. And I think, honestly, that hurts Dallas as opposed to helps them. Is Dallas going to be willing to take a lesser offer for one of their stud young players? I don't think so. I think Dallas is going to basically say, hey, let's ride this out at least for this season, and then try to move any of the young players in the offseason once the season's concluded.
I hear you.
So
I hear you. But I could see a Richards kind of scenario here too, where they say, "Hey, let's see how this ends up in the future." You know, like.
And the thing is, we're talking about that at the same time. Is there's some teams out there that probably don't care what's going on with the world economy. They've got money to burn, and if they can get a player in MLS for $2 million instead of having to spend $20 million on an equal player somewhere else, they're probably gonna do it.
Yeah.
So.
Well, let's leave it there. We'll be back next Sunday, and hopefully we'll have some more soccer and stuff to talk about, or at least some news.
Things to talk about, by the way.
Oh, it is. It's going to be Easter, by the way. Yeah, so I don't know. I'm not going to be anywhere else. I'm not traveling anywhere. I'll get arrested if I travel. Right. Well.
Awesome.
Yeah, we're not there yet over here. I got one last thing to talk about. I don't know if I talked about it, but there's that rumor flying around that Pablo is getting monitored in Brazil by Brazilian team. I forget which
Mineiro?
one.
Mineiro.
Yeah. Mineiro. And basically, the rumor that there is that Lau, who really desperately wants to buy Pablo, can't afford the $1.5 million that FC Dallas wants for his services. So the current rumor is that they're gonna try to buy 50% of Pablo. So $750,000. They're fairly sure that they can come up with that money to buy 50% of the rights to Pablo, and then you're looking at Dallas maintaining 50% of his rights and an eventual move to Brazil at some point, a big money move of some kind. So,
wow, that's interesting.
That's a player worth monitoring is Pablo. By the way, I'm going to say right now the biggest winner of this whole shutdown, because he was in the middle of a monster season in Chile, off to a great start, something like 4 goals, 3 assists, in only I think it's 5 games and a couple of tournament games, and that's something his basically that it's going to stay until this is over. So here's a guy who was expected to have a big Olympics. That's not going to happen now. But when it all comes back, they're going to say, hey, that guy over there is having a monster season still. Mm-hmm. So I think Pablo's your biggest winner right now, because he got off to a great start, and now it's on pause, and he can point to, hey, look at this guy is clearly that playmaker that you're looking for. He's proven it in the Chilean league, and cough up the money and you can have him.
Yeah.
So
fascinating stuff. Thanks, Jose. Appreciate your reporting all the time. Well, let's leave it there. It's late here on the East Coast, and I've got to go sleep in the tent with my son. I promised him. That's right.
Tomorrow, other than staying being home, I'm probably just gonna go back to playing video games.
Yeah, good for you.
By the way, my internet went out, and I was forced to go outside and work on my yard. So hopefully my internet will go out again.
Ben, it's always good to see you there in the wild land of Oklahoma, the land of the Tiger King.
Yeah, the land of the Tiger King. Hey, it's always good to see you too, like in the Washington Post. What's up with that?
Yeah, well, call went out, and I answered the call, and it was interesting. Always interesting. Well, cool. Well, great. Well, we'll talk to you all soon. Thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
See you guys.